Hi everybody, my name is Laura and today we are going to be making some cute little spooky bats that you can learn to sew with and also just, cuddle up with and I don't know, put it on your clothes. I have no idea what you do with it, but you'll do something with it. Hang it on your wall. So this is gonna be your little spooky bats, what we're gonna make today. I hope you enjoy it as part of our projects for this spooky Halloween October month. All right, join me. So let's get started with our bat plushie. So the first thing that we are going to do is open up this bag and see what's inside. So you do have some instructions in here, but I know it'd probably be easier if you saw it happening too. So you have two different options for sort of learning how to do this. So I've got that, the instructions in here, and there's some pictures on the back. Then I have your felt. So this is what's gonna make up your bat wings. So you've got two pieces of felt here, one for each. You should have two googly eyes and one pom-pom. You'll have some red thread and a needle that's through the little piece of paper that you've got here. Just be careful because that is obviously kind of sharp and pointy, so you don't want to hurt yourself with that. This is going to be the pattern for your bat wings, so you'll have one of each. And then some tissue paper. So the tissue paper is going to act as the paper for our pattern. You have a whole piece here, you're not gonna need that much, but you'll use just a little part of it. And then you will have your needle threader. So yours is gonna look a little bit different. It'll look like a kind of a round circle with a little piece of metal sticking out of it. They're gonna work pretty similarly. This one's just different. I didn't have any more of those other ones. So, but this is what I'm gonna use. I'll show you how to use it. And it's gonna work very similarly. I'll explain it when we're doing it. So the first thing that we're going to do is sort of move all of that stuff to the side. And we are going to trace the design onto our tissue paper. So what I would recommend, a few extra things for this that you're gonna need. Either a pencil or a pen, it doesn't really matter which one. And then, so pencil, pen. And then you'll want a either hot glue gun or tacky glue, whatever works that you have laying around. I don't know if Elmer's glue would work, but if you have hot glue at home, great. If you don't, tacky glue that's like in the goldish bottle would work too. And you can buy that at any craft store. You can buy one of these at any craft store. And usually they're not very expensive. You can get them at Walmart for a couple of bucks. So I already have mine on and ready and waiting so that we can get moving with this. So I'm gonna trace the bat wings on this piece of paper, and you're gonna wanna draw like two lines. So the first one is gonna be a solid line, and you'll put that along the outside edge of this black mark. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just pretty close to it. So you've got this black line here, it's pretty thick. So this would go along the outside edge. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to put a little bit of space and do the second one. Okay, so now we have the two outside edges of our bat wings, and now we're going to go back, line it back up, and we are also going to trace the inside of this pattern. So I'm gonna make these kind of like a dotted line. So that second one. So this is about 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch is pretty standard in sewing terms for using just about everything. So that's about how far there should be between the two different lines. When you're doing this, I would also recommend having a pretty sharp pair of scissors. If your mom has ones that are like just for cutting fabric or something like that, those would be probably ideal. So just keep that in mind. So you also have the option of also drawing or sewing in some wings. So you can put this in here, see how well it goes. If you decide that you don't really like sewing, then you don't have to put the extra pieces in. But if you want to, you absolutely can. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw them in based on sort of this picture that I've got right here. So, and I'm gonna do it the same way on both of them. So this would be your right wing and this will be your left wing if you're looking at it head on. So I'm going to do sort of, so these would be, I don't know if you've ever looked like at, you know, like a bat wing up close, but bat wings actually sort of look like hands. They have sort of 5 digits just like we have for fingers. So that's what we're making right here if you decide that that's what you want to do. And I would just make those dotted so that you know that this is not a cutting line. So your dark, like full line is gonna be your cutting line, and this dotted line is gonna be your sewing line. I'm gonna do, and then, what did I do? Do it like halfway. I don't know. I want it like this. I'm just gonna, I kind of drew those a little bit wrong, so I'm just gonna scribble them out a little bit very lightly. Okay, so now you're going to want to cut out your pattern just like in a square. So just a quick note on scissors. So like I have these here that are fabric scissors. I only use these for fabric so that they stay pretty sharp, because when you're dealing with fabric, you usually want pretty sharp scissors. And then I also just have regular scissors here that I use for everything. So I'm gonna use these for my fabric, and I'll use these for my paper and stuff. So I'm gonna cut out like this, make rectangles. I'm gonna move that paper off. Okay, so now I have my 2 bat wings and my 2 pieces of felt. So these are going to fit on here. You might have to twist them around a little bit, maybe put them on their diagonal, but they should fit on there either way. And then, yeah. Okay, so you can see through the paper that the whole pattern is on your, is on there. So next up, we are going to use our thread and our needle. So I'm gonna pull my, oops, nope, different needle. It's the same needle, it's just an extra. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull my needle out, and then again, being very careful because it is pretty sharp. And I am going to pull that tape off and pull off my thread. Okay, so there's gonna be two pieces of, this is like embroidery thread. You'll see this at like, you know, Michael's or whatever, and there's a bunch of different colors. So you have two pieces, one for each. You're gonna use the whole thing. Sometimes embroidery thread is made of, it's not sometimes, it's always made of several smaller pieces of thread, you can see there. And sometimes you pull them apart if you want a thinner line. We're gonna do kind of a thick line, so I'm gonna leave that on there. So I'm gonna put one piece off to the side. So this is how you thread a needle. So I got ones with kind of big eyes here. That's what the hole is called. And you are going to take, and again, I have a different one, but you're gonna use yours. And it's just kind of the same concept. So I'm going to stick, looks like I can fit the larger side. Nope. So I'm going to stick this smaller side in mine. For yours, you're just gonna put that whole just smaller piece, and when you go through, it'll sort of open back up. And then for yours, you'll go ahead and put your thread through the needle threader and put it through like a couple of inches, and then that way it will be all the way through and you won't risk it falling off. So I'm going to sort of stick this through into that little hook on this one, and then I'm going to pull it through. You might have to wiggle it a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. And then I'm going to take that off and just pull through the other end. So now you have both sides pulled through there. So we're not gonna go all the way to the end. We're just gonna pull through a little bit of it. And then at the very end of your thread, you are going to make a couple of knots. So just make sure you knot this a couple of times because we don't want it to pull through. So I'm gonna knot that. All right, so I knotted it like 3 times. You could probably just get away with 2 if you want. But we're not gonna knot the whole thing. So you'll notice I've got like a tail here. This is a tail. So we're not gonna pull it all the way through. We're not gonna like knot the 2 pieces together. So we're gonna leave that kind of free. And then we have the other side knotted. So to get started, we're gonna use something called, what do we call it these days? Running stitch. Sorry, I don't always know the names. My mom taught me how to do a lot of this stuff, and so I don't always remember the names that things are called. I just sort of know how to do them. But this one is pretty simple. You don't have to do, it's not super complicated. So you're just gonna hold your pattern on there, but if you want, I would actually recommend stapling it, but you're gonna wanna staple the outside. So I've kind of got mine lined up where I want it. And then there, we'll do 3. That, do the same thing over here. Okay, so now we've got those stapled on there, and that way they won't slip around on you. Otherwise the pattern might move and your bat wing will end up a little odd. So first thing you're gonna do, you've got your needle, you've got your thread, you are going to start on the back. So this is gonna be the back of our bat wing. And we are going to come up, I'm just gonna use one of the corners on the corner of our bat wing, so you can see right there. And then you're gonna pull the thread all the way through. But when you pull, just make sure you don't pull it off, pull the thread off the needle, because otherwise you'll have to thread it again. So now, this is pretty easy, so I'm just gonna, but if you don't get it on your first try, that's okay. So all you have to do from here is just go back down and pull it all the way through. and you're gonna go right through the paper, and then you'll just come right back up. Like that, and then back down again. So this is called a running stitch because it's basically just like a flat line or a flat piece of thread just going through the paper, up, down, up, down, up, down. And there is an example of that on your directions, just like this. So like we came up here, we go back down here, come back up, down, up, down. And when you look on the back, you'll notice it looks very similar to the front. So the only thing I recommend is to try and keep your stitches kind of even so that you don't have really long ones or really short ones. And that way it'll just look a little nicer, but if you don't do that this time, that's absolutely okay. Obviously, like the more practice you get, the better. You get at doing it. So, and like I said, I've been doing this a long time, so if yours doesn't look as nice as mine, and mine might not look that nice, we'll see, you know, you can just practice, but don't worry if yours looks different from mine, because each one should be unique since you're the one making them. So the thing with the corners is a little harder. It's not that hard, it just is slightly more tricky. So you kind of have to decide where you want your corner to be. So I'm just gonna go down here. And then when I come back up, I am just gonna come up over here. And you're just gonna follow it all the way around the edge, pulling it through, up, down, up, down. Oops. If you can't follow the pattern on there exactly, that's okay. Just try and get it close to it. But again, it's just a pattern. This really is just for practice. So you know, to see, so that you can sew stuff. It's not too hard. I mean, it may be hard, but but we're just learning how to do something new. So again, whenever you learn to do something new, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying something out. See if you like it or not. So I call this a plushie. It's not actually stuffed, but you know, you'll get the idea. It's more just something that you can have around. It's not, you might not want to cuddle with it too much, but you could without too much trouble, I think. Okay, so we're just about finished with this part, and then I'm gonna show you how to do your little finger lines. So if you'll notice, we've ended up back sort of where one of these is at. So, but I'm gonna start on this one over here. So I'm just gonna, normally what you'd wanna do is knot this and then re-knot it and start on the next one, but I'm not gonna do that since we're not going that far. So I'm just gonna go down here to my first little finger. I'm gonna call them fingers. I don't know if you call it, you probably don't call them fingers in bat terminology, but I'm gonna call them that. And just start on my little finger bones here. And then I'm just gonna go over here to this one. And then over to the next one. Oops. If you pull too hard, it might kind of crinkle up like that. So you don't want to pull too hard. You just want it so that it's flat. And then up here to my last one here in the corner. All right, so now you see I've got my entire bat wing done. So I am going to go ahead and tie off the back. So you'll notice we pulled through the back here. So we've got all of our loops here and then our really long pieces that, like I said, we wouldn't normally have, but we're just gonna do it this way this time. So what you wanna do is take your needle and you're gonna go underneath another of our pieces of thread. We're not gonna go all the way through because we don't wanna see that thread on this side. We just wanna stick it like underneath that loop right there. And we're gonna pull most of it through so that we have sort of this loop right here. And then we're gonna stick our needle through this loop. And we have not really a knot, so you wouldn't wanna stop here. But this is the start of our knot. So you're gonna do the same thing where you'll stick it underneath the loop that we have, but not so far that it goes through the underside. And we're gonna pull it through, and then once we have that loop, we're going to, we're gonna pull that. So now actually we have our first knot, and I'm gonna kind of pull that down with my fingernail there, and that way we have that. But I'm gonna do it one more time to make sure that it's pretty secure, and make that loop, and all right, so now you see we've got our 2 knots there. So it's pretty secure, it's not gonna come out. So I'm going to cut off this with a little tail. I'm not gonna leave much of one there, okay? So now, you can probably guess what you're gonna do next. You're gonna do the next one. So just start working on this one. It's gonna be the same thing, just up, down, and then I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, so now we have our 2 bat wings done. So what we want to do now is cut it out. So we are going to cut out the edges. So remember that thick dark line? This one got pulled a little bit, but I'll show you on this one. Remember that thick dark line we've got along the edge? So we're going to cut along that line. If you notice it's getting too close to your stitches, like say maybe one went up a little further, just cut around that. It's not, again, it's just an idea. It's not necessarily, you don't have to stick to it. This would probably be where you want to use those fabric scissors if you have them, otherwise just your sharpest pair of scissors. And for example, here's why. So here's my not so sharp pair of scissors. These cut for a little while, but then you have to make much shorter cuts because they're just not that sharp. So, but realistically, any scissors will work. You just have to be patient and make small cuts if you don't have very sharp ones. So I'm just gonna cut around the edges on both of my bat wings. And all right, so we've got one bat wing cut out, and you'll notice that little tail sticking out there on the corner. You can always just cut it right off so that you can't see it. And okay, so now I've got both of my bat wings cut out, and so now we're going to take off our paper and see our finished bat wings. Just be really careful when you're doing this because you don't want to pull up the paper or pull up your thread too much, but if you do, you can always just gently pull on it to keep it to sort of flatten out your stitches again. So just gently pull it up. It's tissue paper, so you know, you don't have to use a lot of strength with it. And then just pull it back a little bit so you can, If you have little bits or pieces, you might have to use like a pair of tweezers or something, but you shouldn't really need to. All right, one bat wing. And okay, like I said, just gently pull it so that your strings are all kind of flat. Got all my trash over there. So we have our two bat wings now, and so you can kind of see these are going to be the middle parts of your bat wing. And like I said, I've got this hot glue gun over here that has been getting hot. So I am going to, the first thing I'm going to do is glue my googly eyes onto my body. So this is going to be the body of your bat. So I'm going to glue my googly eyes on here. Just remember, when you're using hot glue, it is very, very hot. And it does cool off very quickly, so you have to move pretty darn fast. So I'm just going to put a dot on here, kind of swirl it around a little bit because it ends up with kind of little tails. And then stick the eye on there, and then you can kind of push it down. I would recommend using like a pencil or a pencil eraser, just so that you don't burn your hands. Just don't use very much glue. You'll see it sort of went out on the side over here. Because it is very hot and you can burn yourself if you are touching the glue. So don't do what I just did. Okay. And then we're gonna put our second eye on. We're gonna put it right over here. So I'm gonna make a smaller glue dot this time. Swirl that around a little bit. Stick that on. Use my pencil to push it down. All right, so now we have our body with our eyes. If you're using hot glue, it does sort of like leave little strings, so make sure you pull those off because it'll probably make it easier. So now I'm gonna actually go ahead and put another dot right here, and I'm going to stick my body on right there. And then now you'll notice that on the back, oops, you've got that bat wing sort of firmly attached. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And so actually when you look on the back, there might be some overlap a little bit, just like that. And you can always let hot glue dry just a minute or two, but it shouldn't take very long. And then when you are all finished, you are all done with your plushie bat. So you can hang it up or take it around with you or do whatever you want with it. That's completely up to you. But this is your project for the month. I hope you enjoyed working on this with me and that you learned a new skill, which is sewing if you've never sewn before. And then I hope you enjoy your project. So this is another one of our spooky projects for the month of October. And we'll have all new projects for next month. We do love seeing what you have made for your projects. So if you would like, please email us a picture of your project at emaillibrary@avondaleaz.gov, and I'll put that up on the screen so that you can see it, and then potentially send us an email with a picture of your super awesome bat. So thanks so much. I hope you guys had a good time, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.